Hey guys, welcome to Gwent. Let's have a talk about randomness, which is actually a pretty popular topic these days. It was brought up by other content creators as well, and it's actually discussed on Reddit mainly because of the new keyword spawn. You spawn units, and players are concerned that this gonna change things for Gwent. This gonna compromise Gwent in some way. And I kind of just want to go over the whole thing, because I don't think this is just a topic that we can like discuss in like 1 minute. So let's just talk about the essence of Gwent, the sense of card games. They are about most of a variety and just making whatever you want, like making a custom deck, fighting other different decks, and that's it. You have a lot of fun. And this experience could also be somewhat predictable if you end up facing the same decks all the time. And I think keeping the level of unpredictability is extremely important. Just as it's important to punish predictable decks, just running into the same decks all the time that play out the same way is not ideal. Let's just say that, because ideally, of course, in a very perfect scenario, you just face different decks all the time. But that's really not feasible outside of a draft mode. And even in a draft mode, it's very convenient and very handy to have some kind of RNG. And it might feel like RNG just takes away from the game. It takes the skill out of a game. And while it's certainly true that it could make the outcome less predictable, but that could be a good thing as well, but it does add to the skill actually, because it makes you consider and play around a much wider range of possibilities. You're not only facing the exact 25 copy-paste deck of your opponent, and you know exactly how it's gonna go, exactly what cards he's gonna play, but you're gonna face different options that you just don't know. Like, you don't know exactly what cards he's gonna spawn, and you gotta play around with it as well. And not like card games don't have built-in randomness in them. I think that is what makes them really appealing. You don't want it to happen the same way every single time. For example, draw RNG is the strongest RNG and will stay the strongest RNG in the game easily. Because as long as we are not talking about very efficient decks that just go through their entire deck, if you're just relying on like winning the game, I don't know, like let's just say 1 out of 8. That's it. Drawing into the winning card. That's pretty RNG for me. And that's why like pretty efficient decks are extremely popular, because you want to win, and currently not many, well, you can't really punish that, frankly. You can't really punish that unless you're running a mill deck, but players actually hate mill decks, so who knows. Actually hate playing against it. And the other strong form of RNG is the coin flip, which is quite impactful. But card RNG, not so much. We got like Avalok, the Sage, but that's more of a trash card. Like, you can just play it. It's if it works out, it's like, maybe it's a little bit better than a gold, just the standard gold, like best case scenario. Again, we got Gaunter. Like, these are the very RNG cards that are just dumb. But we are getting limited RNG cards with a lot more player decision making involved, that are not just gonna insta lose you or win you the game. In the case of those cards, more like an insta lose. I think maybe Lesser Demon is gonna join the list of Gaunter and Avalok the Sage. Like, it doesn't seem like a really good card, and discarding a random card, That's damn risky. You can actually discard the card you are fishing for, and that's that. Now, thing is, I actually came from Hearthstone at a time I was not too happy with the level of RNG in that game, and I was really happy with Gwent for a long time, and I'm still happy with Gwent that it didn't have too much RNG in it. But the thing is, the way I feel like, first of all, I don't consider this create keyword that bad at all. I think it's fun. The thing is, what makes you wish for some RNG is having the same matchups at the top of the ladder, because the outcome of the matches very much, let's just say, like at low levels and medium levels, and even like kind of highish level, it's very much up to the player skill. But after that, after a certain point where player skill is pretty damn close at high rank, we can just almost take that out, and then we are left with draw RNG and coin flip. And if you are considering efficient decks, we can take out draw RNG as well, so it's only coin flip and the deck you're running, and it's gonna play it out the same way. And I think it's also hurting the tournament scene, because you see a matchup and you just see like, wow, player 2 is going second, that's already a massive advantage right there, plus maybe he had the better hand. It doesn't matter too much, actually the draws don't matter too much. But most of all, it's the kind of matchup, like, is one deck favored against the other one? Then who goes first, who goes second? That is it. And I'm not saying you know every single time who's gonna win a matchup in a tournament setting, but I think if you could guess, you might get it right, like, at least 2 out of 3 times. I might wager to guess like 4 out of 5. But again, player skill still plays a role in a tournament setting, but 2 out of 3, I think that's an easy call. And the reason why this is important is just purely for the replayability. And these multiplayer games very much need to be, well, replayable. Because if you just had, like, for example, Gwent had just like 3 pre-made decks, everyone played the 3 pre-made decks. I know this is a weird example, but bear with me. Because that's how a stale meta could feel like. You got 2 free decks that are played by everybody, and it's the same matchup every single time, played the same way, and it's bloody boring. I know some players just really like the winning, and just like really like just maybe like going for like maybe some crazy tech choices that might give you a slight edge in those matchups. But actually it doesn't really matter what you're running yourself. The opponents you're gonna run into are still gonna play the same thing, and it's gonna play out very much the same way, especially if it's an efficient deck. And randomness could add a lot of skill to it. And the thing is with these, the predictability is that it makes the matchups very much on autopilot, and I don't think that's what anyone wants. I know Gwent is a skillful game, and to get to the level when you really know what to do and how to play, you might need to think a lot. But once you're there, once you know how to play a matchup, you don't need to adjust your plan basically ever. You just do your thing. You know how you're gonna win, you know how you gotta do it, and you're just trying to get there one step at a time. And that doesn't really change. And I certainly didn't feel that way. Like, if you asked me if I would have liked more RNG in Gwent after like 1 month of playing Gwent, I would have said like, I don't care. Maybe I would have said no. But after like 2 or 3 months of Gwent, especially after like playing the open beta and seeing like more players being competitive and just really pushing the meta decks, I would have to say yes, more RNG would help, because else it's really, the pressure is really on the devs to make sure that we gonna have a meta where players are gonna play a lot of decks. And I know for a fact that even if they nailed it, first of all I have to say that I don't value balance as much as just putting out some content, because I'd rather just see them being active and just put out some content, make some changes, then try to like make the balance like super perfect. That's not gonna happen. And the point I was trying to get to is that even if the balance was perfect, I know that many players would just simply go with well-tested deck, probably popularized by a streamer or a content creator, doesn't really matter, and we would see a lot of players running around with it on the ladder. And you would face a lot of them, it would be the same matchup every single time, and you wouldn't see too much of a difference fighting those guys. You're just like, yeah, this guy again, same matchup. Usually it's a really good deck. And I feel like that just really adds to it, because when your opponent's strategy is like, hey, I got a really strong deck, what you gonna do about it? And like, it's just really obvious and predictable, but it's just so strong that you can get away with it, then I'm not a huge fan of that myself. Again, randomness adds difficulty to the game. It considers it forces you to consider wider range of possibilities. Just as not having all the cards in your hand makes you do alternative lines of play, and I think that's a good thing. Like in Gwent you have a big starting hand, but draw still plays a role. And those of you who feel like RNG could take away from the game, you could be right. I think RNG done wrong could feel cheap and frustrating, and most of all could make the game feel pointless. If it's just a big dumb card that just makes no sense, and it just like, let's just say like there was a gold in the game that either gives your opponent 50 points or gives you 50 points. Like, would that be a good card? Would that be a good RNG card? No, that would be dumb as hell, wouldn't it? You would have to play it, and no matter what players did, like that would be the reason, that would decide the game, and it would be a coin flip. It's just dumb. It's no good. But these are not extremely impactful cards on their own. They're just I'm just trying to find them. I'm kind of looking for Ada, because she was the one that was discussed at the forum. She has a good power level on her own. She creates a bronze or silver curse unit. That's totally fine. And because it's less predictable, less consistent, that should I use, you get a pretty strong card. Because 6 plus a bronze, that's about okay, but 6 plus a silver, that's great. Of course, some of these cards won't be as good, because for example, if you get this is an option but you don't have spells, or this is an option but you don't have any cursed on the board, and yeah, that looks pretty bad. You might gotta go with a naked knight, something like that. I'm not sure if Ada is cursed. Yeah, looks like the cursed knight actually can turn Ada into cursed knight, whatever. And yeah, like it's a concern, and I don't see them overdoing it, or I'm not seeing them overdoing it with cards that are actually impactful and people would run it. Like they just, even the cards that are just dumb random, like Avalok, I mean like no, Avalok the Sage and Gaunter Odim, only just slightly better if they work out, but they are pretty bad if they don't. So that's about it. And I can't really put to rest your fears about, or your concerns about randomness getting out of control, but the cards I'm seeing right now are just not just a crazy random. But it can definitely lose you the game. But it will also put more skill in the game and like require higher skill from the players and make the matchups feel less stale. Even if you're forced into the same matchups over and over and over again, they will feel more different every single time you have it. So I think that's important. But most of all, we're gonna see a lot of cards coming in, so that's gonna help for sure. And I really hope we're gonna see a lot of variety, because the thing is, I feel like Gwent doesn't need a lot of RNG. They are definitely doing a lot of things right, and as long as they keep up, I think the most important thing that they're doing, and really ties into the, somewhat ties into the randomness, but let's just point out that the fact that they're keeping all cards relevant is so important. It makes the many deck archetypes relevant, and the players can build a lot of decks. That means we don't have to rely on randomness too much to make the games not the same all the time, the same matchups that you would end up having in some other card games. But in Gwent, you actually see quite a few decks. I would say, in my experience, I ended up seeing the most variety in Gwent, at least in the last patch. The last patch really nailed it, and if this patch could nail it as well, at least just as good, it's gonna be a great patch. And yeah, spawn a gold unit. Yeah, like some of these cards won't be great, like Uma, like she won't be used, or she or he, whatever. Like this is not a card that will be used in a constructed setting or ranked, but there's no harm having this card in the game. And it kind of goes against my previous point that all cards needs to be relevant, and to a way this is kind of relevant. It's not terrible, maybe it's slightly underpowered compared to like having the most tryhard card in your deck, but it's a usable card for sure, and it gives you some flexibility. So that's nice. Not really sure if the spell or curse tag would help at all. So that's that. Possibly one of the better examples brought up on Reddit was the one comparing Erdin to Ada. Both of them are leaders, and the top comment was actually that she should be Erdin. I don't share that view, but we can compare those leaders. Erdin is a 5 strength leader that has access to every single bronze Valtant unit. And his Vite toolkit, let's just say that, is actually a value in itself, because you can get out the ship if it's a long run, you can get out the rider if you're just trying to generate value. Many times you just want to get out the navigator just to get out another guy, but if your hound gets killed, you can just get out the hound. And if you want to finish off an iris, or just really want to finish off something specific, you want to get out a warrior. And you usually want a specific guy for a specific job. Ada is not like that, and I have to say, I have to give Erdin credit that his toolkit is so useful. It's amazing, and I like him. He's my favorite monster leader right now. Screw the shirtless dude and Dagon. The fish, screw that. But also horses coming to monsters as well. You might just check it out as well. Now Ada is less consistent. She has 1 more base strength, and she can also spawn a bronze curse unit. So potentially she could be, let's just say like 4 strength better than Erdin, but if she only gets bronzes as options, then only 1. And those bronzes could be, again, less ideal because, like, this is obviously useless if you run out of spells because it only plays it from your deck, so that's no good. This could be okay because, assuming Ada is actually hits the board before the damn sorcerers, you can just play a damn sorcerers. That's fine. So Ada is that's a good option. Of course, the best option is playing Silver Curse unit, but not all Silver Curse units are gonna be amazing for you. Like destroy the armor of all units, then boost self by half the value of the destroyed. This is useless. You don't want this. What are the curse units we got? This is garbage. We don't want Vincent. You might want a Morgvarg. That works okay. We also got Daron, who's cursed. Whenever enemies damage, boost this unit by 1. But are we hitting them that much? Daron is useless. We don't want an X-Man in that deck. So those are just bad options. And you might got Vincent plus Daron. And you might got silvers as options. But these are very niche silvers and not gonna be that good. You might got like Vincent, Daron, and Tormented Mage. And what do? You already have like 3 Tormented Mage in your deck. Let's just say that is the case with 3 spells. But let's just say you got 4 or 5 spells in it, just in case this is a scenario. But if you got 3 spells in it, and you're in a tough spot, you might just have to spawn something subpar. And that is the inherent risk in it, and you just don't have that reliable answer to a problem. And maybe even Vincent is gonna be good, but you just can't run Ada to have Vincent. That's not how she works. She runs, and you gotta pick the better options. Of course, you might just pick Morgvarg and you just say like, wow, it really did it. I got a Morgvarg, but is that really that amazing? Because then we got Kraken Crate who gets up Morgvarg too. Like, you don't, that, for using Ada for just Morgvarg, that's not gonna be that amazing. You can just like get out Morgvarg or all geared with Kraken Crate, and Kraken Crate is gonna do a good job with that. So that's not an amazing use. Like, is she better than the standard leaders? She's not. She has flexibility, but that flexibility, but it's also somewhat limits her. She has flexibility, very much like Erdin in a way. And she can be more powerful situationally, but she can be weaker as well. So I'm not seeing Ada as like a OP leader by any means, or just a completely useless leader, or just a leader that shouldn't be. I think she fits in just fine. Erdin is the one that has the toolkit, always has access to it. Ada is more like, you just get 3 options. And I think as long as like, you probably don't want to play Ada like super early on, because obviously in order to get the max value of the Cursed Knight, you want to get like a Tormented Mage on the board. In order to get the max value out of the Sorcerers, you might want to like have something that you can snipe. And that is what I'm talking about. You want to provide value for her wide range of possibilities. And that is what the skill factor in randomness actually means. So she is fine. And I could make the same argument for Mr. Horse here. So that's that. Anyway, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. And tell me what you think in the comments. Because, yeah, I am excited for the new patch. The art is awesome. And I know not all of them are gonna be amazing, but I think it's gonna be super fun to play with. And I guess we're just gonna have the new mode only next year. Anyway, can't wait for that. So, see you guys and have a good one.